Hi, this is the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. Welcome back to Wellness Within, a 3-part podcast journey into spiritual wellness and intuitive healing. I'm Dr. Michelle Greenwell, and I'm so glad that you've joined us again. In episode 1, we explored the biofield, our energetic foundation, and how tuning into subtle energy can help us redirect to our true desires. Today, we're stepping into the nighttime world of dreams, those vivid, symbolic, sometimes confusing experiences that have the power to reveal what our conscious minds overlook. I'm once again joined by the remarkable Dr. Delphine Rossi, with decades of experience in spiritual counseling, integrative health education, and intuitive work. Delphine brings a rare and deeply grounded wisdom to the topic of dream interpretation and inner guidance. And today, we'll be sipping on 1713 spring tea in Lewisburg. But before I do that, Delphine, thank you for coming back and sharing part 2 with us.
Thank you, Michelle. It's good to be here.
So what do you have in your teacup today?
Today I have Vermont maple ginger.
Ooh, tell me more.
It's a tea created by Celestial Seasonings. And it has, I'm reading the label, it has ginger, cinnamon, natural maple flavor, and Vermont maple sugar.
Wow. Lovely. Lovely. And that gives us the sweetness, the cuddling, the warmth with the cinnamon in there with the ginger. That is lovely. All right. And I've added today the 1713 spring tea in Lewisburg. So I'm just thinking about the depth of cinnamon and ginger and the rooting of those ingredients. And I've got lavender and chamomile that I'm going to highlight today. What I tried to put together with this recipe was different kinds of herbs that would have been growing at the Fortress of Lewisburg in the 1700s, and that would have surrounded the whole area. And so lavender and chamomile are what I'm going to highlight. They're supportive of peaceful rest, gentle release, and an inward clarity that lets dream messages rise to the surface. As we discuss dream work, we want these plant essences guiding our reflections. And what I'm going to suggest for people, just with the ingredients you chose too, and the maple coming from the roots of the tree, coming up the tree, and then pulling the maple water off the tree in the spring. And then it's a long process till it gets to that maple syrup or the maple sugar. And I'm just going to bring that in thinking about the way that we cultivate our attention to dreams, our attention to intuition. And these herbs are right there. They're at the grassroots, they're down in the ground, and they have this lift that they can offer us. And so I'm going to just invite people to think about, as they are thinking about intuition and dreams, how these teas, these herbs all kind of bring us together and give us a different insight than usually we would have. So, Delphine, I'm going to give you a cheer from this end of the country. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yes.
Part 2. Here we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Now we want to dive into dreams, but let's discover a little bit about how intuition speaks through the language of dreams. Can you share from there?
Sure. As we discover how our dreams are sending us a variety of information, it's really important to be using our intuitive skills along with our dream interpretation, because so much of our dream language is symbolic metaphoric, different kinds of images, so to speak. And so all of that is very unique to the dreamer. In other words, how my unconscious, my higher consciousness speaks to me is going to be different than how yours may speak to you, Michelle, or anyone else through this symbolic metaphoric language. So beginning to really enhance our intuitive abilities, learning, studying about intuition, practicing, learning how our intuition speaks to us is really key to beginning to decipher our dream language, because so much of our dream language is so not straightforward. It's very symbolic. It is not literal. And so by doing that, by enhancing that, our intuitive skills, we're much more able to, when we have a dream and we have different images coming up, then we can use the different dream techniques and skills to decipher those images, but we also need our intuition to help us in that process. So it's very similar to what I spoke about last week with intuition, that, to have a journal, to write down when you have your intuitive hits, so to speak, and just sort of keep track and see how things are going as you learn and grow in your intuitive abilities. But it's the same thing with dreams, that it's really important to have a dream journal and to be very consistent with your dream journal, so that you are writing down those nightly or every other night, or however often you do remember your dreams, writing them down and actually deciphering them, because the more you do that, the more you're going to start to get in touch with how your intuitive self via your dreams speaks to you.
I'm interested that you've said dream language, because I'm thinking, when people say, how many languages do I speak? And I say, I speak two. I speak English, and then I speak body language, because I can understand expression and interpret, different postures quickly, but I can't remember language words. So, yes, I took a little bit of French, but I really can't do much with that. But what you're saying then with the dreams is that same idea, is it has its own language. We have to take the time to study it and learn it and grow with it. It's not just there, and you can open a book that says this, because you dreamt this is how it interprets. We have to really understand how our own language is working in that.
Absolutely. And there is a saying, Dr. Fritz Perls, who was a German psychiatrist and very much into dreams and dream language, that we are the creator and director of our dreams. And so whatever we put into them is already inside of us. It's a very, very unique dream language. And so it's really, I would not suggest for people to use dream books, dream symbol books, to start to learn how to interpret their dreams, because that's very generic information. It's not specific or unique. And so while it may be okay once in a while, if someone is really perplexed about, well, what does this symbol really mean, to take a look and see what others think. However, it's really advisable not to use those books along the way very much, because you really want to tune into that unique language that your higher consciousness is speaking with. And it's a different language. It's really like we're living in two different worlds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you got a couple of examples with the work that you've done, of how people have learned things from their journals?
People have
what they've learned from their journals. So just as you've been working in some of the courses that you teach, and people doing that journaling, I'm just interested in some discoveries that people might have had.
they have learned, like how do I want to say this? Um, when something has been off or not right in their life, they have learned, aha, what that is. Like they weren't really clear on what that was. Um, or they've had healing dreams where there was some type of interaction within a dream where a some sort of healing took place. Um, there's also warning dreams that people have had, where they've been given information and it's really a warning about don't do this instead. So there are lots of, what do I want to say? Lots of different varied intentions that students have discovered in their dreams as they had gone through the course. Yeah.
Wow. Um, Now, you talk about a little bit about healing, and I know sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and not quite awake, but slightly awake, and I'll be in that process of I can support that with, and then I dive into some healing pieces.
Mm.
Is that something that happens a lot for people, finding that language of healing within those dreams?
From what I've read and studied along the years and years, yes, that there are dreams that come in the service of healing because our higher consciousness wants to bring us to a deeper sense of wholeness. And it's through our intuition, through dreams, where that higher consciousness, higher self is continually speaking to us, having conversations with us, that we get this information. And so the more we can decipher it, the more we are able, if we choose, to grow into that wholeness of the self.
And what kind of practice do you kind of recommend with the journal beside the bed if you wake up in the night, jotting a few things down or waiting till the end in the morning, see what you remember?
I think it's really up to the person. Uh, if one can more easily during the night, if they wake up and they remember a dream, turn that light on and write it down, that's wonderful. But if they're having a problem getting back to sleep, that might not be a good idea. But it just depends. It depends on the person. So either way, jotting it down in the night or waiting in the morning. But sometimes if the dreams are so deep and you have multiple dreams, you don't always remember them all so clearly when you wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on how much your dream mind, so to speak, has been trained.
Okay.
I think that's a good way to say it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So again, that whole piece about building that language and then getting to that place of where this higher consciousness has realized that you're listening, and then that memory has the potential to be there more than it might have been.
I think so. At least that's my personal experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we didn't talk about this before, but I'm just thinking about automatic writing. So you could write in your journal, which is a recount of what the experience kind of seems to be to you, what you're recollecting. But then you also have the automatic writing where you just let your hand write and whatever comes out. Have you spent any time with that idea across recording dreams?
Yes. With direct writing.
Okay.
Yes, which is similar to automatic writing. Yes. And also writing with the non-dominant hand.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
because that gets more into the right hemisphere when you're writing with your non-dominant hand. So yes, so there are various techniques to use when someone is actually writing their dream. It's important that they write it in first person, what's actually going on. But also there are, what do I want to say? There's like a process that seems more fruitful to actually do that. Like you can give the dream a title and then you can write the narrative, but you also need to identify the emotions that you feel during the dream. Another really important way to access dream information is to draw the dream before you start to write.
Okay.
And that's because the drawing creates a bridge between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. It gets again back into that right hemisphere, which is, much more creative, intuitive. And so you're not intellectually processing anything, you're trying to intuitively decipher. And so by drawing, that can really bring out some ahas that you wouldn't have thought of possibly if you had just written it down. So oftentimes that drawing first can be really, really helpful.
And with that drawing too, with the non-dominant hand?
One could do that, draw with the non-dominant hand, sure, and see what comes up. I mean, either way, you're still accessing more of that unconscious information because you're drawing. You're not in your head, so to speak. You're in a feeling space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm just thinking about people who journal a lot with a lot of words, just regular journaling, not necessarily dream journaling, who might not draw. What might come out for them if they spent some time from that perspective as well?
Yes. Yes, right. And this gets a little bit into art therapy, but yes, the idea of drawing, brings out more information, so to speak, that's hidden and, brings it into the light.
So as everybody's listening and thinking about what they might be doing, what they do remember or don't remember from their dreams, and how you approach your morning routine, you might want to think about the space that you give yourself. If you wake up with an alarm clock, the space between the alarm clock going off and before you have to actually be out of bed. And I know for a lot of people, it would be just hit the alarm clock and let it snooze until you absolutely have to get out of bed. But what if you changed your pattern to be able to have that reflective time to just sit up in bed and maybe do a little bit of drawing or writing, and then see how your day unfolds, what you want to bring forward as a result of that.
And, speaking of Michelle, for those who are really wanting to dive into this process of remembering their dreams, it's better if they don't awake with an alarm, because an alarm jolts us into another level of consciousness, where if we wake up gradually, we're starting more in that like hypnagogic state, where we're sort of in between worlds, and we have a little bit of better memory during that time.
Beautiful. And that's something that I've enjoyed is most of the time I no longer use an alarm clock. And I'm always awake before I need to be, often a couple of hours before I need to be. And not because I'm in a panic to get ready. It's just the body just wakes up when it's ready. And then I do sit in that world where I kind of go in and out for a little while. And that oftentimes that's when I do a lot of my healing work or healing reflection is in that space. And so I'm just inviting listeners, if you're thinking about different ways of doing things, I love late nights, but I also really love beautiful, slow, thoughtful mornings. And maybe the eyes open and I see the sunshine. Maybe I can hear the birds in the trees, but then I can just gently take my time. And anyway, I'm inviting people to just think about that little piece. So let's move from dream time coming out in first thing in the morning. Let's move over to daydreaming. What can
Okay.
you tell us about that?
Well, daydreams are a type of visualization. Yes, someone is visualizing what it is that they would want to happen, or they may be visualizing a meeting or an encounter, or all kinds of things. But what's interesting about visualization is that the body doesn't know the difference between what we imagine and what's real.
Mm.
And so when we daydream, if we're daydreaming about an event that we want to happen, and there's a lot of emotion and energy and excitement, that energy not only goes in, through our subtle energy body, but it goes out into the world. So it can help with the manifestation of what it is that we're daydreaming about, if that daydream is based in reality. Because if it's based in fantasy, then that's not going to manifest. But if it is based in reality, then that, again, that momentum, that energy frequency goes out into the universe to help us manifest what it is that we would like to see, that we desire.
I'm thinking about those people, when I am doing sessions or the group activities, and I'm saying, create your goal before we start, know what your intention is, where you want to go, what you want to bring about. So the opportunity for those people who say, I have no idea, I don't know what I want, I don't know where I want to go, that the potential then of what daydreaming can produce for them, if they sit and just let their mind wander. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, if people just let their mind wander, it may be that it goes to ideas that they hadn't thought of before, but it also may go to different scenarios where they can feel into, is this something for me or isn't it? Because, as you know, the body speaks in a yes-no language,
Mm-hmm.
energetically. And so if someone is focusing on a scenario that feels good and has a lot of positive energies around it, uh, that may be something that would be beneficial to them that they hadn't thought about before. But if it's another scenario that then starts to feel uh, like constricted within their body, or tight, or a little bit of stress or whatever, hopefully they would recognize that may not be the path that, even though I'm thinking about it, I should go on. So it can give that kind of daydreaming can give information to the person, not only via their imagination, but via their body, via their subtle energy body.
And so often people will say, I just need to, like, my mind keeps wandering. I've got to bring it back and be focused. But instead of going, I want to control it, but actually then relaxing and going, where did it go? And why did it head that direction? And what did I notice about it? And what is my awareness of my body as a result of that? Yeah.
Right.
Without the
Right.
judgment piece.
Yes, like just increased awareness, right, of the self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So again, if you're listening to this and thinking about how you might quickly critique yourself because your mind wanders, thinking about, is it wandering? Or is it a fact that you're just not listening to some of the intuitive opportunities that could be sitting there? and in your haste to get yourself back into consciousness and be present with a thought, perhaps there's more there than you realized and have been listening to. So, all right. Now, if we go from daydreaming, if we go from that into future visions, can you share a little bit about that area?
Sure. And I'm going to back up just a bit, just to give the listeners some background. And that is looking at like varied intentions of dreams, because our dreams come first in the service of wholeness. However, there are varied intentions of dreams, and one of them can be future possibilities, or what we might call precognition in some ways. And that's a whole very interesting subject. But there's also telepathic communication that occurs within dreams, healing, like we spoke about, or a catharsis, a change of heart. There are prodromal dreams, which herald illness in someone, warning dreams, decision making, problem solving, resolution. So there's dream information comes for a variety of reasons. In other words, all for one's holistic benefit, so to speak, all leading one towards wholeness. And as far as future seeing, interesting that you say those words, because Nostradamus, who was a 16th century seer, had said that nothing of significance happens in our lives unless we first preview it in a dream.
Oh.
And so this idea of future seeing in dreams is very, very real and very relevant, because there are people who have, including myself, precognitive dreams, dreams that are telling you something about the future. And so they can be, of course, very, very insightful. They can help with decision making and problem solving, or they bring up choices that we can make that that our higher consciousness sends us for our highest good. So future seeing is very interesting, and it's a very integral part of dream life.
Wow. I hadn't actually thought about, it's usually because it's usually reflection of what you've had in the nighttime that you're trying to remember, but how much the potential is to really cultivate, like you said, manifest what is going to happen, what you would like to have happen, and using the dream world as a means of opening the door, but then
Yes.
also to be open to different possibilities.
Yes, because as I said earlier, it's like we really live. It sounds funny when I say we live between two worlds or within two worlds, but really it's all one world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're at different places in our consciousness when we're sensing the worlds,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for those people, I remember as a kid, it would be so cool, if I could see into the different things, if I had intuition. And then as I've grown older and have the intuition and have those ideas there, for those people that maybe haven't experienced that, to realize that it's practice, it's awareness, and then it's being open and providing the space for it to happen. And like the not waking up with the alarm clock, giving yourself a slower morning to get started, there's so much information that could be gleaned from cultivating the morning the way you want it and listening to the possibilities.
Yes. And then, speaking about about healing, wellness and healing, last week we talked about how soon do you know, right, within the subtle body that something is amiss. And our dreams will often identify that information too, because again, they're wanting us or they're moving us towards wholeness. But if we don't understand those energies within our body or subtle energies, so to speak, and we get towards illness, um, then the prodromal dreams or dreams about illness uh, may begin. But they are also very important because they can help us through the illness and healing process.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we have to be really in touch, right? Really aware with what's going on with our deeper self.
Mm-hmm.
Because really that information is coming from a very much of our deeper self, that higher consciousness of the self.
I'm thinking about too those people that they have nightmares or reoccurring events that they can't get rid of. I know with Tai Chi, we talk about the monkey mind and, it plays round and round. And then when you bring the body into balance through movement, those thoughts disappear. But I'm just thinking about those people that continue to see the challenge that was within those situations rather than the resiliency. And if we were looking at the dreams and looking for where we've been resilient or where we've been empowered, that might produce a different result of what those dreams mean. Do you have anything you'd like to comment about that?
Well, nightmares are often some residue from a traumatic experience. And once that traumatic experience has a resolution in the mind, like it is resolved and there is more of a neutral energy about it, oftentimes those nightmares totally go away because the psyche isn't trying to figure it out anymore. The psyche isn't trying to get us to deal with it and heal it and resolve it. It's all finished, so it can be done. In other words, there's nothing there anymore. Repeating dreams are very interesting too. And in my personal dream life, when I've had repeating or repetitive dreams, they shift when I've had a shift in consciousness. So when I come to some resolution about them or the experience that they're showing me, that's when they shift or they change or they just go away. There's some sort of, again, resolution within the psyche. And so then your higher consciousness doesn't have to prod you any longer to come on, finish this up. I'm showing you this. I want you to finish it. I want you to heal. I want you to become more whole.
I love how you're saying the wholeness and the healing towards that wholeness so that people can realize there's a whole other way of looking at healing. And we have the conscious one where we, might see a facilitator or a clinician, and we're very active with our conscious mind of being in different healing sessions, going for a massage, practicing Tai Chi or yoga, music. But then we have this whole other space where we could play and be open because possibilities are so different when it's within the daydreaming world and within visions that don't have to follow rules necessarily. The rules of living in concreteness, but of being open and have space.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to mention too that there is usually a thread of truth within a dream. Okay. And this is something that Dr. Edgar Cayce really encouraged, like to look for a truth within a dream.
Beautiful.
And that's really important because again, that gets us to that place of understanding, resolution, moves us more towards wholeness because we're identifying and hopefully accepting a truth that wants to be known that maybe has been hidden from us or we've hidden it. And now it's right there. So, again, that focus on moving us towards wholeness.
I'm just guided at this moment to what's popped into my head is emotional stress release, which is putting the fingertips just lightly on your forehead. And so for whatever reason, whoever's listening, where, there are challenges of things that don't want to resolve or they keep coming up, but being able to put the fingertips on the forehead pulls it out of the back brain to the forebrain and allows it to resolve. So if there are some ideas that do pop up and they seem to just be stuck, that might be one way that you can sit with it, and then being able to journal afterwards. Again, like you said, those other insights might appear. Anyway, for whatever reason, I was guided to say that at this point. So,
and I also want to mention that sometimes we have a dream and we may draw, we may write it down and all, and it still perplexes us. So even just putting it down and looking at it a week later, 2 weeks later, sometimes that can trigger something, and you think, because you're looking at it with fresh eyes, you think, aha, now I see it differently. And so that's something to do, as well as if listeners have friends who are also keeping dream journals and wanting to really dive into their dreams, sharing dreams is really a great activity. However, when you ask for insights into a dream, you would want to have the person who's responding phrase it, well, if this were my dream, this is what it would mean to me. But one can get some really good ahas when they are in a dream sharing group with people who are also studying dreams and learning how the unconscious speaks to them. It can be very valuable.
Interesting. And I'm just thinking there's two ways of that happening too. One, you can be with a group of friends who know you well. And they may have an insight because they know you well, but they could also have a bias because they know you well. So it can come out two ways. But then when you're sitting in that group where nobody knows you and somebody mentions something, and then out of that, what can blossom? So I'm just saying for people that there are different kinds of groups that you can gather with, and you might not want to share with the people that are closer to you. You might want to go to a group of strangers, and then what comes out of that intuitively from them, what to say at certain points, or like you said, using the phrasing up and their experience, bring it forward.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, in episode 1, we talked a little bit about timeline sequences and mapping things out. So if we go back and look at reflections and experiences, and somebody's done that timeline work, can you talk about how dreams might play into that?
Sure. So with timelines that we look at, like for the holistic self, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, we're using our intuition to connect the threads of how all of our self is interrelated, and how emotional and spiritual issues can create impact, or I should say co-create impact physical issues that we have in our life, and vice versa. With a dream journal, we're also charting, right, our deeper inner self, and waking, what's going on in our waking reality, because we're, being led, so to speak. And by looking at both of those, we can identify patterns. So we can see patterns that may be happening. We may get information in our dreams that applies to our body, mind, spirit, so to speak, within those timelines. So it's really full of information about us. And it can be very helpful to use our dream journals to investigate, decipher what's happening in our life at the current time, as far as our health and well-being, as far as our spiritual wellness, our mental, emotional wellness, etc. So in other words, it really does all integrate. It's just the dreams are going to give you another avenue of communication that's happening to try to get you to see this information, so to speak, that the higher consciousness wants you to see, that has to do with your current life.
I'm just so excited to think about from a wellness journey perspective. I know people are intrigued by dreams and recollections and interpreting what they mean, and a lot of people have played with that. But from the wellness perspective of thinking about, if we take the time and are really open to listen, how much of our health and wellness could be coming from listening to this higher consciousness, listening to the dreams of the night, listening to the daydreams even in the daytime, rather than handing it over to that person who you have an appointment with. Yes. Now here's my slotted time, and this person's going to solve all my issues. But look at how much richness. That's 1 hour out of the day, but you have 23 other hours that all of this fabulous information could be coming to you, and you could be hearing. Yeah.
Yes, and also from the body, right? From the subtle energy body. And so it's coming from the subtle energy body, but the person isn't aware of it, or is denying it, or just isn't understanding it. And so it may come, that information may come in a dream, right? But then, if the person doesn't understand how to decipher that, then the whole situation can continue to have that ripple effect, right? And how soon do you know something? And eventually there they are at the doctor's office when whatever may be happening could be just simply stress related, and they weren't in tune enough with their body and mind and spirit to identify and deal with it, as soon as they knew what was happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because isn't it true that there's a statistic out there, so to speak, that says that many of the problems that people first go to a doctor for are stress related?
And then if it's not resolved, then it becomes more of the physical, which we had talked about through the biofield, and becomes more physical. And the more we ignore it, the more it becomes physical, because that's the only place that we're listening.
Yes. Yeah.
And wouldn't it be something if we were listening in all these other ways? How quickly we can respond. Okay, so let's go from there to how dreams can guide our spiritual journey, or our soul's calling. Because I have lots of people too that I do sessions with, and they'll go, but I don't know what my calling is. I don't know what my personal reason for being here is. Can you share a little bit how dreams can guide that journey?
Dreams can come in the service of, what I want to say, guiding us. Yes, that's one of their main functions, I would say, is to guide us. And so they they provide an awareness of what's hidden to us. And the more we're able to really understand our own unique dream language, the more we're able to uncover these hidden truths, uncover deeper aspects of ourselves, which then have the potential to lead us to our soul purposes. When dreams come in the service of, let's say, resolutions or warnings, again, that's a guide. Yes, they're guiding us. The dreams are guiding us on a certain path, and spiritual journey. Dreams can come in the service of forgiveness, and so that is going to lead us to greater spiritual development if we're understanding the meaning of the dream, where there is forgiveness happening in the dream, or where there is love that we didn't recognize in waking reality, but nonetheless that love was there and is very important to us. Or it could be in the sense of grieving, when people, what do I want to say? Deep grieving can be a fragile time for the mind, body, and spirit. And so by having different dreams along that way during the grief process, that are healing dreams, that are showing love and connection and understanding and insight, that can also help people on their spiritual journey, even to have greater faith and to have greater trust in the universe, so to speak, that everything is okay.
Wow.
So there are a variety of ways that dreams can impact or do impact our spiritual journey and even our soul purposes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking again about our idea of wellness within, is that opportunity to hear and listen to so many of these beautiful cues that they just might not be. They just haven't realized how much rich knowledge is actually there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much so. And sometimes people access some of this in meditation as well. If they're, skilled meditators, that's another avenue, so to speak, where
Mm-hmm.
people can access this higher consciousness information to help them move ahead, to help them step more firmly on a soul purpose. Mm-hmm. But again, intuition plays a big part in all of this too.
Right.
Because we have to intuitively put it together to say, aha, these dreams are showing me that this is my soul purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever it may be. So again, that learning your intuitive language along with your dream language is really very significant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Is there a way that you would suggest people get started if they've never done anything with listening to their dreams and journaling? What would be your recommendation for a couple of exercises or practices?
Well, I would recommend that they actually study dreams, and to read several very well done books on dreams that actually have skill-based exercises in them and techniques, so that one learns not only how their intuitive self speaks, but how that relates to their dream life, and really start to dive into that, because that background information is going to be important. And then to keep that dream journal, but to really be dedicated to it, because learning to decipher one's dream language, it takes time. And I don't mean just days and weeks. It can take years, and even now I've been doing this for several decades, and I still learn new ways that my higher consciousness is speaking to me. So it's it's something that you really, really need to be committed to and practice, and to learn about, and to really get some good techniques and skills that will help you to identify more deeply the symbols, metaphors, images that are coming to you and what they mean to you. So educating yourself is really important.
Delphine, it's been so interesting to look at this. Like I know that so much what people have for health and wellness is they're thinking nutrition, getting a good night's rest, drink plenty of water, exercise, those key pillars.
Mm-hmm.
But no one really talks about, intuition as a pillar, or listening to the dreams. And what a pillar that is, instead of a good night's rest, but actually being present with our sleeping time and being aware of how much that lends itself to our healing process.
Yes.
Thank you for shining the light on this in a different way, because I think when we do that generic list and everybody goes, yeah, I know that list, but none of us are succeeding with the healing potential that we could have, because there's these subtle pieces that are missing. Yes, a good night's rest is there, but what is the richness within that sleep? What is the depth that we can go with it? And how do we develop our intuition better?
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for this second part, and shining a light on it in a different way. And I look forward to part 3, when we move into spiritual healing and the soul's approach to illness and healing. And that's our next dive. So thank you so much, Delphine.
Well, thank you, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here.
As you're thinking about what you've heard, and you're thinking about your wellness practice, maybe the wellness plan that you have, I'm going to bring forward the affirmation that comes with the tea today. And I didn't say it at the beginning, but we had the presence of these incredible herbs with the cinnamon and the ginger and the maple coming forward. But then we've also got the chamomile and the lavender, which lavender has been really jumping out as I've been going through this conversation. Just the smell of it, the taste of it, and the feel. And so I'm just going to say that out loud again, for whatever reason. If maybe the sense of the herbs is starting to come through for people, then you can start to realize how much information is there. The affirmation is: awaken your passion for joyous living with the abundance of spring energy. And I would add to that, and the awareness of the dreams. What's coming from your dreams? As we finish off, I will just say again, we've got part 3. The trilogy is Spiritual Healing, A Soul's Approach to Illness and Healing. It's going to be a soul-centered conversation about the deeper meanings behind illness and the possibilities of transformation that can result when we're moving into the wellness space. So until then, rest well, trust what rises, enjoy your tea, and be well. Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy, and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michelle Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, linktr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontea.ca. Have a wonderful day.